doo boop.
There's all the things to do.
Is that your tattoo on your arm?
Yeah.
Fuck, I've never seen that. I haven't seen it before. Let's have a look. Hang on. Can I make you bigger on the screen?
You can get it close up.
Stop. No. Okay.
Extreme close.
Beautiful. I love the shadow.
Wait a minute. Is that the script from the Rings of Power?
Uh-huh.
Oh, nice.
Look at who it is.
Yeah, that's the nine.
It's the Fellowship.
Fellowship of the Ring. The nine members of the Fellowship.
Yeah, and that's flowers.
Oh,
and you've got surfer bands.
And then I've got that little heart.
Yeah.
And then I've got that fox. And I've got skateboarding frog.
Because everyone needs to have a tattoo of a skateboarding frog on their tricep.
And then I've got more flowers. And this is Barry the Bee.
For the sake of the fact this is not an 18 certificate, please do not show anymore.
This is Barry the Bee.
Barry the Bee. Well done, Barry the Bee.
Well done, Barry the Bee. There's also a spooky Gengar boy on my leg.
Okay.
And then there's a cross on my ankle. Yeah, that's it.
I'd be cross if I was your uncle as well. Welcome to the Grafters Podcast.
Hello, Gary.
Hello, John. How you doing, mate?
Oh, I'm not bad. It's been a while.
It has been a while. It hasn't been that long though. I mean, we're always. Let's be honest. I probably speak to you at least once a day. So
you do speak to me.
That.
No, it's been a little bit less sporadic. Actually,
it has, hasn't it?
Yeah. We've been very busy, haven't we?
We have been busy. I've been trying to drum up one of about 17,000 small pieces of work, and you've been trying to drum up 17,000
big pieces of work. Big
pieces of work, yes. And then there's other things that are always getting in the way as well. And people, just very quickly, I got someone recently asked me to do something for about 3 days. There will be no money in it, but, and I never thought I'd actually hear these words. It'll look great on your show reel.
Did they really say that to you?
Okay, yeah.
They must be dead to you now.
Let me think about it. They weren't really alive to me in the first place, if I'm being brutally honest. Doesn't matter. Another one of those.
But it's been I've been busy on the road. It's been great. I've been to visit a few universities. It's been great. I've enjoyed it. Yeah.
I bet you went back to Hertfordshire, didn't you? Did you go back to Hertfordshire?
I've been working with Hertfordshire College Group. Not managed to get down to the university yet, but the plans are in place to go down and see those guys. Been to see Birmingham City University and saw some amazing stuff there that they're doing.
Did you see someone amazing there as well?
There may have been someone that I bumped into outside of one of the great buildings that they have. Can't remember his name.
I think was it Gavrock?
It was Tim. It was great. Managed to catch a quick bite to eat before I had to get back on the train. That was a weird thing doing trains, but Birmingham I have found is easier to get to by train than by car.
Talking of trains, do we know anybody else who has something to do with trains?
Well, there's been a DLC drop this week.
DLC. What does that mean again?
Oh, downloadable.
Don't like custard creams?
It means downloadable content.
Hey, and she's
here, everybody.
She's here.
Hello.
Yeah, and in fact, the other person is also here somewhere.
Hello.
So nice to hear from you both, and it's so nice to have you both here.
It is. Well, it's more nice to have Gary here. I mean, it took forever.
Do you mind? Oh, listen, I've been busy getting my dad's car out of his cold living hands.
Only 2 hours late.
Only 2 hours late to the podcast.
Do you know what, ladies and gentlemen? Today is the last time I will ever be podcasting with you. No, that's not true. No, that's not true at all. There's been my whole life, literally recently, has been like, if I'm running at full tilt towards something, and every time I blink, it's like that. You know that scene? Have you all seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Yes.
Yeah, there's the two guys standing on guard. There's knight running in the distance, and it cuts back to them. It's like, and he's still in the distance. And it goes, "Duh, duh, duh," and all of a sudden, my life is like that. Then all of a sudden, I'm back there, right in front of the gates, and it's just, and that's how I feel my life is. It's like, I'm nowhere near anything. Then all of a sudden, it's like, bah. That's why I'm late, because I'm constantly trying to do things.
Yes, we understand. We do understand. You're very busy.
We all are.
We are.
Yeah.
Big news this week. Events in America. Big gathering of games people.
What are they?
Games Developer Conference, also known as GDC.
GDC. Do we know anybody that went?
Oh, I don't know. I think I went. I'm not sure.
Fresh off the jet lag.
Still asleep.
Still asleep. You were very excited, Em, before you went. Are you as excited on your return? That's the question.
Oh.
I mean, we ought to give a big props to how you got the tickets as well.
Yeah. So originally I didn't have a ticket for GDC, but luckily there was someone on LinkedIn who was doing a little giveaway for any tickets that weren't being used. So I managed to get a ticket through that. Can't remember who it was, unfortunately. But I do have big appreciation to that person for the ticket. Saved me £300.
It's not someone. I don't think it's someone in our circle, is it? But it was definitely. It popped up and it was like, "Oh, have you seen this? Someone's giving away some free tickets."
Yeah.
And we managed
I will say thanks to Tim and John for pointing that out.
Spotting it.
Give me a moment, finding it now.
Thank you, Tim.
So, anything happened? Anything you see? Anything fantastic while you were there?
A few interesting things. The new UE 5.4 update is going to be bringing some awesome new features, including new memory updates for Nanite. So now your textures won't absolutely tank your storage. There is also a new audio tech for Unreal. So now you can make music in the engine, which has never been done before. Incredible.
So
absolutely
you can write
incredible.
music to your game.
Yeah. So you can
Or
write
just
absolutely
write music
anything.
Anyway.
Any audio. So now if you want to make footsteps, so that it actually spawns at the emitter of the particle where every time the character takes a footstep, you can now get a exact direct audio play as the foot touches the ground, which is incredible. It's incredible tech. I will point out it's in a terrible location. It's not a very safe area, but obviously just stay in groups. Way easier that way. Yeah, hopefully they changed the location of it soon. Everybody is complaining about it.
And it has been there for ever, hasn't it? I mean, GDC is.
It's been there for a couple of years. It was somewhere else before that. But yeah, one good thing to hear as well. I did hang out with a lot of biz dev people. Games are actually getting signed. Money does exist, so that is good to know.
Games Republic were out, weren't they? Games Republic
were there. Yeah. We
bumped
had
into Jamie last night.
Yeah, we had some interesting flight delays everywhere. My plane had a broken tire, so that was fun.
Usually called a puncture, but yep.
Yeah. Well, we don't actually know what the issue was. They just said it was a tire issue and then changed the tire. So that was fun.
I love that, a tire issue.
And screaming ladies apparently as well.
Yeah, so there was a thing called the GD Scream, which was apparently a group of developers getting together screaming for layoffs. And honestly, walking past and not actually knowing what was going on beforehand made it really weird. So obviously, after finding out what it was for, it made a lot more sense. But there are better ways about going about that sort of thing, for example, going to a lobby where all the big boss developer business people are,
having a scream there, yeah.
It's screamed there. It would make a better statement than doing it in the central hub for where all the other developers actually hang out. What else? Obviously, there was still party issues of people getting spiked. There's not much we can do about that still. GDC did put out a statement to say if there was any reports of this to do get in contact with police because they are doing something about that. But obviously, most parties were trying to do it so that it was invite only with no +1s to mitigate those issues. So there was a severe lack of it this year. But obviously, it still did happen to the parties that were open invite.
Yeah. They at Eve's at Eve's University, they actually supply all the students with little
Drink caps.
covers.
Yeah, the
drink caps.
They were
and
giving them
straws.
out at Develop Brighton last year. They were
really good idea. Do you just
yeah.
know? I mean, it's like I just the fact that someone spikes your drink like that. I still don't quite get it. I don't understand what why. I mean, I appreciate they're obviously
It
strange
has
people about there.
it has
Very odd
something to
people.
do with the location. As some people might understand, San Francisco
it.
is full of zombies, which is basically just a load of homeless people taking fentanyl.
Yes.
So it's not very safe. But
No.
overall, beautiful city. Lovely locations to go visit. We did take a day out to go and be tourists. So we went to go see the Golden Gate Bridge and Coit Tower. We went to go see the seals at Pier 39, which was really cool as well.
Isn't that where is it Alcatraz that's there?
Alcatraz as well, yes.
Yeah.
And Treasure Island.
I heard that
Yes.
Mr. Cecil swam the bay again.
Yes, Mr. Charles Cecil, industry legend.
Yep.
Yeah, that is now his actual award for that. He did a swim, on Sunday morning. He swam from Alcatraz back to mainland shore. Absolute mad lad. Apparently it was really choppy and he couldn't walk afterwards.
And this is Alcatraz that was put there. Well, people were put on it because it was difficult to swim back from. So it
yes.
just
Yeah. It was a prison made for the most dangerous people. So, but it is shark-infested waters, so I did not partake.
I will be looking at Charles in certainly a different, respectful light. I think, taking on choppy shark-infested waters. Fantastic.
Yeah. Overall, GDC, it was an event.
Right. Out of 5, what would you give it?
Out of 5,
Mm.
probably give it a 2.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, mainly just because of location and developer attitudes out there.
Would you rather it was in Vegas then?
I've never done Vegas, so I don't know. So comparing it to European events, European events feel a lot more safer. Obviously,
like
the European
Gamescom
industry is a lot more like tight-knit. Over in America, they're kind of like, I don't think they mean to make it feel like it, but they kind of segregate you if you're part of Europe. So they don't really give you that nice, like, welcoming feel that we give to people when they come to our events and stuff. So, but yeah, I definitely prefer Gamescom, but I don't like Gamescom either. So,
so the wrong person to go to San Francisco to GDC.
I would definitely go again if I have to. But
would you go to San Francisco again if it wasn't GDC?
Probably not, because I've now done most things in San Francisco. Like there's Japantown, which was incredible. Love that. Love to go back and get some chicken karage. But yeah, because I've done all the tourist stuff there now, there's no real reason to go back. And we were meant to go to LA afterwards, but we had to cut that part short for trips. So,
well, I've got family out in LA, so if I do ever get out there, I'll definitely be spending a few days laying over. I think seeing the fam.
That'd be nice. That's nice. Yeah, I'm looking at somebody going back to Australia to see the rest of Alex's family.
Yeah,
because that's
no breaking ankles this time.
I will not be breaking an ankle at all. I shouldn't say that, should I? Hang on, let me just. I've got a
Touch
huge
wood.
I've got an oak desk in front of me. Touch wood of the best kind in the world.
So we so GDC. Yep, it's fab to have you back. I mean, I must admit, I was on holiday last week, so didn't really notice that you weren't there, hanging out and catching up. So, but with the Discord, we've actually been posing some questions this week to try and narrow down some of the topics, I think, and get more participation going on with our Discord members.
Absolutely, they will be named and shamed.
They will be named and shamed. Absolutely. Anything on other burning news that we want to get off our topical plates?
I don't know. There's nothing in particular that comes into mind, but then nothing really comes into my mind. Nothing's coming to my mind.
I suppose events-wise, there are a few coming up.
Gameo's coming up.
Yeah. So Gameo's coming up soon in May.
Reformat's coming up.
Reformat industry event in April.
Looking forward to
all the
that.
Developers out there, can't wait for that one. WASD is at the end of April as well. It's the same time as Reboot Develop in Croatia as well.
And FMX is on next month as well.
19th, is it? 19th
4 weeks to go to FMX.
Yeah, and more consumer-heavy events. We've got Insomnia starting tomorrow, as of the recording of this podcast.
So, in other words, you've missed it.
It was however long ago, you know.
It was 3 months back. This one was. No, I'll get it done before then.
But yeah, obviously there are the indie events that are occurring a lot as well. So,
and of course they can check out your Discord channel if they want to keep on top of when they're happening.
yes,
Absolutely. What is that channel again?
the Games Industry Events Discord server. We have over 30 events reoccurring in the server every Monday. I do a post to let everybody know what events are happening for the week, just to keep everybody up to date.
Maybe we should post a couple of links up on our LinkedIn.
I think so.
Get that out for you. Give a bit of sharing.
Probably end up with lots and lots. How many subscribers you got now?
To the events Discord?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, let me have a look. It
It's
is. Interesting. Since GDC,
it's gone down.
there are now 609 members. We've now
There you go.
we've reached past the 600 mark. So
That's cool.
That is
really cool.
awesome.
yeah, hopefully Discord will enable monetization in the UK, and we can get monetization on that server. Fingers crossed.
That'd be good. Does that mean people have to watch adverts?
No. The feature basically just allows you to pay for a specific role or downloadable content, which that money then can go into the server and support the people running it.
Which would be ideal for our server.
Yeah, obviously the
really
server just needs to hit 500 members as a minimum requirement.
So come on, students, all of you guys out there.
Frank, I really didn't realise that. I did not realise you. I mean, I know my YouTube channel's monetized, but then it's just something I just you kind of accept. I didn't really think of Discord as being something you could monetize.
Yeah, it's a new feature, but currently it's only available in America. So obviously when it was in America, I could set it up whilst I was there, but as I've came back, it's now saying, sorry, your payment account is not associated to the right country.
You didn't say the magic word.
So we will have to wait.
One more event that's on next week, so don't know if that's 2 weeks prior to this recording, will be
I hope not.
It's the Grads in Games finals in Sheffield, which is going to be cool. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, and I'm going to be guest judging on the animation bit, so that's going to be cool.
Hey!
Yeah, all that hard work. Yep, grafting.
Finally paid off. All that tea and sandwiches.
Right, let's get into dig into some of these questions, because we want to keep this. This is a general chunnery. I think we're going to keep it as clean as we can. So I think the first question that we got was from Peyton. Peyton is at Hopwood Hall College, and he asked us Maya or Blender. And he didn't even mention Max. I don't know why he didn't mention Max. It's just my mind's
Who's Max? I don't know who's Max.
I once knew a lovely little Labrador called Max.
I go off on tangents.
Was he a good boy?
I really like a lovely Labrador called XSI, and a whippet called
Houdini.
Lightwave.
Houdini.
No. Houdini is the Star Wars.
I mean, Houdini. Obviously, the correct answer to Peyton's question is Blender.
Maya.
Because it's free.
Yeah, no, of course.
And also, Blender has just gone solid on 4.1 with massive updates on the memory allocation stuff. So it does stuff a lot faster, which is great. And there's some really nice new features in it.
Yeah.
And we can always get a review off Ask NK.
See, that's good to know, because I have been given green light to move to Blender 4.1. So.
Awesome. Well, the thing is, I did mention to Em earlier that I was considering moving to 4.1. Obviously, with our projects that are ongoing for the grafters, we have to collectively make that decision at some point. So, yeah. So if you say yes, Gary, we're all moving.
Aye. Tim?
Aye.
Yeah.
And the Max says, aye.
Aye.
Sorry, everyone, just to explain why it's not that we're down on Max. It's Tim is a big proponent of Max. He loves Blender as well, but he's a big proponent and a big user of Max.
In all fairness, I use Max for nigh on 20 years, and I've now moving across to Blender. So Max has a special place in my heart that is now being overshadowed by Blender because it's just generally awesome.
And like I have for Power Animator. Oh, that's good.
You went from Power Animator to Maya.
To Maya, yeah.
Yeah.
And I went from Max to Maya to Blender. So
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to have at least a couple of tools, I suppose, under your belt, isn't it? Really, because at the end of the day, you're learning skills. You're not learning software. You're just applying skills to software.
Yeah.
Plus, it's important to know at least either Maya or Max and Blender.
Yeah.
Because certain studios will require you to use certain softwares. It's common, but some studios still follow those rules.
It's becoming less common. It definitely is.
It's definitely less common now.
I posed a question on the Discord just recently to the tutors in the industry. To the tutors, basically the tutors page. If they could pick the perfect course, the perfect course, what would they put into it? And it seemed to go away from what I wanted it to be, which was like, we would teach Blender, Houdini, and Maya, and became more of a sort of like, yeah, political stuff. Wow, and it's like, no.
Yeah, I mean, I was tempted to drop in the stuff that I was talking about with Matt Estrella, who was at Animalogic, and he worked with UTS over in Australia, and they basically built a Houdini course, but it was literally just VFX, and you just worked on project. But they didn't pick people from VFX courses to be on it.
Yeah.
It was graphic artists, sound designers, fashion designers. It was people that were very, very creative and curious about getting into doing other stuff, and then they just naturally became really talented, VFX people. Which is kind of how we all got into it in our era, Gary. I mean,
absolutely. Well, you started off literally. I remember the first thing I ever did on a computer was that was 3D. Was I created a bicycle, and this was at Bournemouth before we got our hands on the proprietary stuff that was there. We were using this very, very clunky piece of thing, and it was all cylinders and rectangles, and that's all you could do. So I made a very, very simple bike, a couple of circles, crossbar and stuff. And then basically, I remember animating it so it went forwards, hit a wall, and fell over. And it made Tron basically look like Planet of the Apes. I mean, comparatively speaking, in terms of quality of work. But it was the people who had the artistic talent who were the ones who basically went forward, or at least that level of creativity. That it is about having that creative leaning that makes you do better work. But I think very much so. If people are drawn into art and then they're thrown at 3D, they are always going to be better because they have that creative side already. I'm not saying that people who aren't creative can't do 3D. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, well, here's a prime example, and this is going back, and it's Lord of the Rings. They were working on the texture maps for Gollum. I told you it was going back a bit. They were working on the texture maps for Gollum, and the guys who were doing the artwork in Photoshop just weren't getting the look right, and they were trying to find something that had their sort of finish. They were doing multiple textural layers and building them up and stuff, and trying to get the
translucency and things. Yeah,
trying to fake it pretty much because you couldn't really do that much SSS on the first film. That whole sort of like that skin texture wasn't quite working, and they're looking around for reference, and they noticed that on set they were doing one of the close-up bits for the Dead Marshes, and there was a body that was lying under the water that was being filmed, and there was one guy who was real, but the rest of them were like models. And the person who had done all the paintwork on the models, done all the veins and stuff and everything, they were like, well, that's what we need. We need that. That's what we're looking for. Because, of course, the technical artists weren't quite hitting the note that they wanted. So they got this person who did the makeup and all that sort of stuff on the figure, taught them how to use Photoshop, and they just did all of the skin stuff for Gollum. So they found the person who could do what they wanted and then taught them how to do it in 3D.
Well, just gave them a digital a tool set. That's what they did. They gave them a digital back.
Yeah, and I think that's it, isn't it? It's about having that, having that bit where you fit in, I suppose.
Ollie's asked a question about the least talked about aspect of working in the VFX industry.
It's difficult, really, isn't it? Because there's so much in terms of the VFX industry. There are so many things that everyone always talks about. I can't. It's trying to think of the thing that people don't talk about. Do you know what I mean? I know it's a silly. It's like, well, how do I know? Because no one talks about it. It's one of those kind of questions.
I mean, we always talk about art. We always talk about pipeline. We always talk about the creating of the things. But I think one of the least talked about things is producers, and the sort of the middle people that connect the dots between departments. They keep the schedules running to time. They facilitate people's, what their needs are to get shots done. I think, people that work, whether it be games, and I know they've got slightly different terminology of terms. People who work in those sectors, I think they are vastly under appreciated because without a good producer, you could have the best art team in the world or the best VFX technical team in the world, programming team, and you just wouldn't bring everything together at the right time. It's the logistics, isn't it? I'd say the producer role, that's probably one of the least talked about. I know that there's a lot of talk about accountancy as well in VFX. So, being a VFX accountant, being able to pull pots of money in and budget production lines, upping and down in the size of your project production teams. I know that that's something as well that certainly UK Skills, Screen Skills have been working with, developing more people to become production accountants, basically.
For me, actually, I think it is something you said then, the things that we always talk about. I think that we often talk about, but I think in general in the industry, people don't necessarily talk enough about pipeline. So yeah, I do think pipeline is something that is not discussed enough, and mainly because in certain places they just haven't got it nailed, and they just don't even understand what the hell it actually is. I've got some friends who have been working for a company, and I'm not going to mention the friends, and I'm not going to mention the company. All I am going to say is they are finding it increasingly difficult to. They're getting fed up with the fact that the company has no pipeline, and they're working on a film, and nobody. They're trying their hardest to put pipeline into place, but the person who runs the company, as far as he's concerned, the pipeline is all in his head, and he's not about to let it go. And it is. And when you've worked in a place in the industry that has a really solid working pipeline where everybody has a role, everybody has like a timesheet, everybody knows what they've got to do, and they've got to do it here so that can be passed on to the next person, can be passed on to the next person. The timeline, basically, it's the factoriness of the VFX industry. And I think people, when you have all that, sometimes it sounds like, it's, oh, no, I don't want to work in a factory. Trust me, if you work in the VFX industry, you are working in a factory. If you're not working in a factory, something's wrong somewhere. But it's a great factory. It's a fun factory, but it's
Oh, I like a fun factory.
You like a fun factory.
Do you know what, Gary? That leads, I think, a little bit into Ellie's question. Who's asked, and who is interested in hearing what our thoughts are on education in games. And I think this is because there's a lot of students on the Discord, and I think the question is: do colleges, universities prepare students for industry level jobs? Because they're seeing this as being a bit of a big topic on Twitter at the moment, on X, I should say, about game students not being ready upon graduation. Now, my views on this, from way back. I have long since said that the gap, on the majority of educational exit, the gap is just way too vast, and it's almost insurmountable. And unless you've got a really talented, gifted, hard-working person that's really put the graft in, done the networking, found out the gaps that they need in their portfolios, or get some examples on their show reels, you're probably going to find that you're adrift of where the industry expects you to be. So, kind of with that being said, everything you've just talked about, what could education do more of? Well, stop educating and start pipelining is in my opinion one of probably the easiest wins.
You mentioned, I think it has been since we started kind of like doing the main stuff, the main record, about someone who said, they gave people tasks rather than software. Yeah. Well, I think the task-based system is probably a better way of doing things and teaching people the process in the correct order.
Yep.
So that they're not getting something which is they should have had later. No, it's getting something at the very beginning that they require later. It needs to be put in. It's like you don't teach color grading while you're teaching modeling.
It needs to be it's sequential, isn't it? Yeah, because you need some footage that you've shot or that you've created to grade.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan, I think, of broad spectrum at a lower level, and then as you get higher up the levels, be very, very, very disciplined on 2 or 3 specific disciplines that maybe complement each other.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you are one of these strange people that can code and do art, then you're going to be a technical artist, and that's brilliant, great. But there aren't very many people that think like that at university level, and probably the main reason for that is they're not being guided in that way. They are being pigeonholed into this is an art course or this is a programming course, and the skills of the teaching team around them aren't enough to give them inspiration to do a bit more on the other side.
No.
And again, thinking about Robert Wakefield, how he has a large classroom and coders on one side and artists on the other side, and he lets them together.
Yeah,
I think that's a fabulous way of working. It really is, but not everybody can do that.
I was going to say, I think one thing to point out as well to answer that question is a lot of colleges and universities teach different things as well. So obviously a lot of people have gaps in their experience, and then when it comes to them applying for jobs and stuff, you're going to get multiple different applicants that have skills in different areas. And when it comes to the hiring process, it's more about trying to pick out which skills you can the team has the time to teach the gaps in. So obviously if there is a student out there that is being taught the specific things that their institution is teaching them, and then all the gaps that they're missing, if they're doing that in their own personal time, that's going to make them look like a better candidate because they're putting in the effort. And yeah, I mean, as someone who's literally just come out of university 4 years ago now, there was a lot of people there that were just there because it's university, and why not? You get to go for free if you apply through the government's student finance forms. A lot of people don't actually care, but a stronger applicant will always be putting in the time and the effort outside of university hours.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you also need to learn the balance of where you do that extra time, but also make sure that you're still keeping your own personal time to go and do the things that you enjoy. Because there's a lot of people that just go straight into uni and they're going to go, I'm going to learn absolutely everything. And then they don't take the time out. And then as soon as they finish university, they burn out. And that's exactly what I did. I completely burnt out and then didn't apply for anything for 2 years. And then, it gets way harder if you've got that massive gap as well.
It does, yes.
I mean, this is one of the brilliant things I think that we've done on the Discord is that we're putting challenges up now that help people to focus down and give them a timeline. I mean, it's clear from how many people enter the competitions and also how stringent we've made those
rules.
The rules. Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to say rules, but that's what they are.
Parameters.
The parameters. Yeah, the parameters, and we've literally written them as if they are a proper brief of this is what a client's asking for.
But that was the purpose of it anyway. That was the reason why. So there'd be a level of preparation.
It was, but I think the great thing is, and obviously you and I, Gary, we have these crazy ideas, and then people come along like Emily and Tim that then say, well, how does that work really? In a more long term, and we've seen now some real structure coming into what we're doing. How we're getting a summer. We're already on the summer project. And I seem to have become the person asking all the questions. I realise this as I'm watching another line go through.
Well, I can read the next if you like.
Yeah, sure. But just on that with Ellie, hopefully, Ellie, that what we're trying to say is, that you're probably in a really good place because you're really proactive in what you're doing, and we've seen that. And it's been great to actually be able to give you some feedback from all of us. Anything where there's some work experience, where you can help out on productions, I think that helps. But do it at your availability rather than take on work experience that then suddenly become slave labor to something else.
Also, don't believe everything that people say on Twitter. Half of it's not true.
And also the same with the LinkedIn as well. There's also the concern just looking at this university course plan. It's just the cost of all the software. It's a cost is not something that you take into account when you're studying at university and you're then looking for work. There's a lot of costings that goes into software that you've taken for granted.
Yeah.
And that is another issue that I found with some students when they've graduated. They're like, I can't afford to keep going with Maya. I can't afford to be going with Max or Adobe and all these other options. And the line is like, you may not be able to afford to go with them, but there are other versions out there, like we've said before, that Blender may do things differently, but the theory's still there.
Yeah.
Adobe may not be an option for you. Critter, straight up there, happy days. Affinity, while it lasts.
I would say side effects. Side effects recognised that I think middle of last year that there were there was a big drop off from students leaving to being able to continue, and they do offer some very, very supportive packages for people that have just come out of education and are trying to get into the industry. So it keeps them rolling on the Houdini license frame.
Houdini.
It's always worth noting though, softwares out there do have alternative paths. You just don't hold off like contacting them just to hey, I've just graduated.
Can you help me out?
Yeah.
Open those communications might lead to other things. Is like don't be afraid to sort of go further and beyond, because a lot of students sometimes they finish and that's it, and they then go into the applying phase where they go ham and get disheartened. Don't get disheartened, just keep at it. But also, like Em says, it's all about keeping those skills up. Keep an eye on what people are. It's like I say, don't listen to LinkedIn too much, but you know what not to pay attention to on LinkedIn. But find the artists that you adore, their work, follow them, keep up to date with what they're working on, keep doing the same. Like keep an eye on Gumroad. There's a lot of cool stuff on there, like the ink tool that Gary linked us to, which is
It was John.
spectacular.
I think it was John. I think.
Oh no, it was John linked us to it, and the guy behind that is a great guy.
Try and meet them as well. Like it's important to like get to know people and hold connections with people, because that gets you further in the industry than it ever will. Like if you for example got laid off in your job and you've got this massive connection behind you, you could just message all your friends and be like, look, I just got laid off. Can you help me? And it's helped a lot of people.
There's a guy on LinkedIn called, I'm going to butcher the name, I apologise if you listen to it, called Amir Satvat, who's really great with putting people in connections with other people. He's got an Excel sheet, he's got a whole load of resources, and I think he was also who was got her GDC ticket through.
Yes.
Definitely go check out that guy. He's got some great resources in there. But it's just like that. Just go searching.
On the resource thing as well, Blender Foundation have just announced that the new marketplace for Blender is now out. So there's a new online library where there's loads of free stuff. So that's been all revamped and released.
Just because you've been taught something, don't take that as law. Feel free to branch out and explore other paths as well.
Research it.
I like, I don't think we've got enough bohemians in our life at the moment. It's in the creative sector.
Bohemians?
Yeah, because when we were at college, way back when, Gary, when we were at college.
Yeah, but that was the Wild West, mate.
Well, I know it was, but that's where a lot of the people who are now, older studio heads, we came from there. That's where we came from.
Yeah.
And, I think they do appreciate still the creatives. I was at Games Toast last night, and it was brilliant. Just as Em said, people came up to me, and they come up to me because they're on our Discord or they're listening to us. And it's like, wow, you do feel a little, humble over it, because people are listening, and it's important that we get the right sort of messages out there and be consistent on what we're saying, which is a trial with me, I know, because I can't even remember what I said.
I can say I'm rubbish at that. So.
And that's why Em's going through the now and putting all those lines through it.
She's scribbling things out.
Anyhow,
it literally is like having a producer. I feel like we're on what was it? Was it Frasier?
Yes. So I'm going to go on to the next question if I can.
Yes.
So basically, Bliss, Anthony Rosbottom, who was someone I used to work with years ago, he put a question on which said, a bit left field, but recently I've wondered about how much downtime through playing video games or binging TV creative people allocate to themselves. That I see people on here talk about what video games they're playing, and quite a few Blender YouTubers that seem to pump content out. I include myself in that. Mention playing video games. I guess I'm interested in what ratio of work to relax with product to recharge the creative batteries people think are acceptable. And it's a really interesting question. For years and years and years, I would always be listening to a soundtrack while I was working. So no real words and stuff like that floating in my face or anything like that. But I would always have some sort of mood-based music. And when I see people, and I include my kids in this, watching, they'll be doing work, and next to them will be another screen playing, like a movie. And not a movie that they know, where they can basically turn their visual mind off because they know the whole thing anyway, like I do when I've got Jaws on, as I do a couple of times a year. And I know the film frame by frame by frame by frame, so I don't have to think about it. I just know it's there in my head. I can just hear the, singing farewell and adieu to you, fair Spanish ladies, and I know exactly what's going on behind me. But the idea of actually having like a film that you haven't watched, or a TV series you haven't watched, right there, whilst you're doing this, I don't know how I would get any work done.
I mean, I actually, I'm watching The Shogun at the moment, and I realised the latest episode dropped last night, and I didn't get to watch it. So I watched that over lunch today, and I must admit,
Don't spoil it.
I'm not spoiling it. But the fact that I'm sold into that series now, and I'm kind of like, I'm ready for the Tuesday sort of drop. You know, it's like I love Disney for that. You know, if it's one thing that Disney do well, it's like they make you wait, like the old, you know, it's like back to good old TV. You know, we did on Saturday nights. You have to wait for the episodics.
Yeah.
And I think the problem we've got is there's a lot of binging through Netflix and other streaming platforms because they just drop the entire box set up there, and away you go. I mean, that the three whatever it's called, three thingy people,
Three body collection.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
I think so.
I think it's that. We've started
three
watching
body.
Three body problem.
Three body
problem.
We got there.
Well done, Mr. Marquis.
So the three body problem, I have got into it, but then I'm not as into it as I am with Shogun.
Yeah.
Shogun's very narrative, and it's got such a rich story, and the art style in it is just phenomenal. I think that brings us on to sort of like maybe talking about Last Airbender as well. That was another one. It was binged because we could. It was so good, The Last Airbender, because I'm a massive fan of the original cartoon series, and I was dreading them going off script, and they absolutely held it frame by frame.
Absolutely nailed it.
It's brilliant.
They brought the Cabbage Man. They brought the Secret Tunnel song.
Oh,
like
Talking about going off point.
No, that is on point.
How you're talking about a program. You're not talking about.
Oh yeah,
true.
But it's the stuff like that you watch that keeps your creative mind going.
Yeah, that's what I'm
is
saying.
what he's trying to get to.
Yeah, I am. Well saved, Em. Well saved. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, John.
I've been watching. I'm watching June again. Hopefully I was going to try and watch June 2 this week.
I have seen June 2. No spoilers. It is long.
Yeah, it was 3 hours. I know it's brilliant.
I was disappointed.
Were you?
Yes, I felt they rushed the end again.
Well, they have to rush the end slightly, just because.
They have to rush it to ramp it up to get you ready for the next one.
Yeah, because they are moving into the third part, from what I gather from reading through some of the the reviews.
What, Messiah?
Yeah. So they've actually taken it down a slightly darker route, and they've prepared you for it. And by doing that, they went off the book. They moved away from the story.
They didn't go off book.
They did.
How dare they?
So disappointing when that happens.
So what do you think here?
Well, I used to when I used to teach students at college, I used to take the mental health break stuff quite seriously with them, and I used to ask them very honestly at the very beginning of the course, how much time do you play on video games? How much time do you socialize with your friends? How much time do you sleep? And then what we'd do is I'd get them to draw a pie chart for a day, and I'd say, right, we're telling you the Gary Norden effect is you must do 8 hours sleep.
Pretty much, yeah.
Gary once said that to me, and he said, you must go home, you must get the right amount, or else you're going to be no good to me for tomorrow morning. Those were the words. Because there I was hanging on for the free meal at the end. Go home. You need to go home. Like, I want a free meal, and that stuck with me. So I did take a heed. So I would tell the students, that if you've got the 8 hours of sleep, what's the rest of your 24 hours look like? And just chart what you're going to do, and including that, enough time to have peas and poos and have something to eat and all the other bits and pieces. So you really do micro it down into a real, and then put it over 5 days. What does it look like? And then put it over a month.
I think I'd spend most of my time on the toilet if you did it that way.
But this was the thing. What you found was lots of the kids realized that they had all this dead space. And they filled it up with social media trolling, scrolling on Twitter, and all the things that you really do need to limit and bring back, and and you need to get into a habit of setting a clock, scroll for as much as you need, and then switch it off.
Yeah. It's that kind of like, it's that set. I remember when I was studying for my A levels, and I remember we were given like it's the first time I've ever seen one before, which was revision. That's it. So it was a revision timetable, and it literally was like 15 minutes on, 5 minutes off. And it sounds ridiculous, but it's actually a really good way of doing it. Because the problem is with 3D is, I don't know whether you find this, guys, but when you're doing something, the clock just moves far too fast. Because you get so locked in that you might say, I'll just do 20 minutes. And then you look at your watch and it's like 2 hours later. And it really is. It's just this awful sort of like mind-sucking thing where you're just modeling and stuff. It's like
Yeah.
it's not good for you.
Yeah, I take it you realise you're talking about the Pomodoro technique, Pomodoro. There's actually dedicated YouTube videos for it where I have those, but it's also worth noting it's also a skill to learn when it's a detriment, negative returns when you're working too much
Mm.
and you've been working for too long. That whatever you do is going to have potentially a negative impact on the work that you're doing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Knowing when you're hitting that stage is when it's time for you to take a step out. Is also worth exploring methods that work for you. Some people may swear by the 15, 30 minutes on, 5 minutes off, but for you, it might break that concentration. There's the Washington Post did a article about the whole, if you get distracted, it can take you up to 45 minutes to get back onto subject.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you learn that you are one of those sort of people that you as soon as you get into something and something breaks your concentration for 5 minutes, it then takes you 20 minutes to half an hour to get back onto topics. Something like the Pomodoro technique might not be the one for you. It's all about sort of working out what works for you. It's like, as you guys also mentioned about the whole idea, like watching a series is like, as Em said, like you start analysing it, you start working out what's fun about it. It's like when I was with special effects makeup that I do, when I watch a film, I'm looking for the techniques. I'm looking for if I can see edges, I can see this, I can see that. And the same goes for games. When I'm gaming with my friends who are like 99% of them are in the games industry, and we play the game. We have a whole lot of fun, but we also always find ourselves then talking about the decisions that have been made, why they've done this route for this game, why Helldivers 2 is so much fun, why the gunplay is something spectacular or something else. We deep dive into it while playing it and having a lot of fun. It's just finding out what method works for you, finding out, when is a good break for you, how long do you need to have a breakdown? And also, like, once you're gaming, how long do you then need to sort of decompress everything that you've done for the day? Don't take it for granted that you've done a whole load of work today, you've had some fun watching a series, playing a game, or reading a book. Highly recommend reading a book as a way to decompress. But then you still need time to then come down from all of that before your brain switches off and you're ready to go to sleep.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I do listen to Audible at night, and that's how I drift off. And the great thing about Audible is you can set a timer on it, so that it's going to shut down. It's like, depending on how tired you are, it's whether 15 minutes or 30 minutes. You're just going to listen to it, and then it's going to go quiet, and then you're going to go to sleep. But one of the books that I'd recommend is The Productivity Ninja, which is a great book to sort of get you in the habit of being more productive with your time, but also with your concentration, and you learn where your power levels are, because everybody has a power level of concentration, and once you've gone through that, you've got to relax, you've got to recharge that battery and then go back up again. And what you'll do in that 10 minutes of power is far more than you'll do in 2 hours of just staring at nothingness. And sometimes that power level will be you'll find out when it is. You'll find, like me, I'm more productive at night. During the day, I really have to work hard at concentration, but at night I can concentrate so much better.
Oh, the other thing I would ask is make sure you go outside at least once a day.
Yeah, get fresh air.
Fresh air.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just gotta go out of the house, get a Greg's, fresh air.
Get it, Greg's.
And
Get
a
a
sausage
Greg's.
roll.
It really is going to Greg's fresh air. You're just translating
Yes.
indoor smell for better indoor smell.
It's the best air.
I wasn't saying a negative to Greg's. Then brace yourself. I'm just saying it's just trading odors.
Oh, wait, man, what are you saying?
That's a good Johnny exit. Very nice.
Interesting thing you said there, Tim, which I did like, was the fact that when you play your games, you are assessing the game. So if in a way, that's kind of where you've got that nice crossover point between I'm relaxing, but I'm still doing something related to what I'm interested in terms of my work. So that kind of it has that nice blurring line between the two. So it's still work, but it is still relaxing. So I think that's at least that's something where it is like a relaxing product for recharging.
Also, hobbies. Find yourself a hobby you enjoy. I spent my career, I started off practical, then I went digital, and then I found myself navigating back to practical again, back to sculpting, real sculpting,
Yeah.
real painting, real watercolors, and all stuff like that. No, just gaming and stuff like that, because you're still technically within that realm of your expertise. Sometimes it's nice to try and find something that breaks you completely outside of that box as a way to relax, and then you'll probably find 9 times out of 10 you find a way to then pull that back into your area of expertise, because that's how we operate. It sounds weird. I'm not trying to say this to be big-headed. We operate differently to how some people might see us. Everything we do usually has a reason or folds in onto other things that we're doing.
Yeah.
So sometimes that trying to step outside your comfort zone to do something that's completely out there compared to your skill set, you usually find somehow to bleed its way into it because you never stop thinking. It's kind of a cool thing to have. And it's also the part that confuses the hell out of my fiance, who is not in this world that we all are. She finds it strange sometimes when I talk about things and I pick things out. Oh, June was amazing, but did you see what they did with the orthocopters? And she's like, no, let's not talk about that.
I loved that though.
Exactly.
I absolutely love that they've done they basically dragonflied them. That was amazing.
Jessica made a statement, and I think it's a great statement to end on, really, for this podcast. So Jessica's statement was, I should probably learn Blender.
Yes.
Yes, 100%, Jessica. Yes. You definitely need to learn Blender.
Do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Do it.
It's intimidating at first, but it gets a lot easier and then becomes really fun. And if you want to freak out, just go look at the add-ons that it ships with, and you'll freak out.
It's amazing what's inside of it. And it's literally inside of it just turned off. I still can't get over it.
I was asked, I can't remember who asked me, said maybe we could do a live biscuits on those that don't use Blender, but should. If we did a live biscuits of, in Maya, you sort of do this, but this is this. And I know I shared a video with, I think you, Gary, recently, which is a Maya Pro converting over to Blender. And I thought they did it very badly.
So do I.
So maybe we need to schedule up a live biscuits at some point in the evening.
I think that's a really good idea.
We can all dive in.
If people wanted to see that, but they're not connected to the Discord, how would they get connected to the Discord so they could watch that?
You can find us on LinkedIn. We have our own Grafters Podcast LinkedIn page.
We haven't put anything on for a while. We need to.
There will be something up shortly. Maybe a GDC update from M. Hey.
We're also on X.
We are on X.
At the Grafters Podcast.
At the Grafters Podcast.
Where else are we?
We aren't on Facebook. Not yet, but we do need to get out to.
Actually, and another step for us, very quickly, John, is I want to start moving us onto a YouTube podcast channel, which does mean
videos.
Unfortunately, it will all have to be filmed.
Well, we need to figure that out.
Yes, even more editing to be done.
We managed to get through that agenda pretty painlessly because in the edit you won't hear how often we went off topic.
Oh, I don't know. I might just say sod it and just put the whole thing up, bleeps and all.
Unedited.
But the unedited. Not sure we said anything that we could be sued for this time.
No, I know, but it's just the worry, isn't it? It's like, do it on Patreon and then make it so that everyone can get the unedited versions of the recordings. What a great idea. No.
That's a good idea.
It's a terrible idea.
Just wait, if I swear in Norwegian, do you bleep it out? So if I say or
when Discord enables monetization in England, we could do the unedited versions for the paid subscription.
Oh, yeah, good. But very nice.
We'd all get cancelled. Well,
no. I think me, Gary, and John would get cancelled. Because she's in that young age. Yeah, that's the one.
Anyways,
I'm so happy that we actually managed to get the quartet into the Chunnery tonight.
Yeah, me too.
I think it has really been a nice little conversation piece.
I do like these, as long as they're not too often. I do like them.
That translates to Gary likes him and Johnny's time and things that me and them just. Sometimes. Okay, we get it.
We don't get the me and Gary time much now.
This is all sounding very wrong.
You and Gary time.
See what exactly. You see.
Listen,
very warm in here.
By the way,
I do not want any fan fiction. I do not want Grafters Podcast fan fiction. It's getting hot in here. Bloody isn't.
Fan art.
It's going to be South Park Butters all over again. Let's go.
So, without further ado, I think it's about time we all said goodbye. I'm going to say, so it was a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me and a happy birthday to Emily on Saturday.
Happy birthday to Emily on Saturday. That's terrible. I won't do it again.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
And goodbye from me.
And bye from me.
Bye. Bye.
About you.
This work is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 4.0 international license. Any opinions stated during the course of this podcast belong purely to myself and to John and are based at the time that we record this. The theme music is My Everything by DJ Quads. If you like that, and I'm sure you probably did, there is a lot more of his great stuff which you can find at soundcloud.com/DJ Quads, or his music is also promoted by www.free-stock-music.com.